Joanna Richa tucks her chin in her chest as she loops the neck strap of her green apron around her neck and knots the waist ties around her lower back. It's very early on the morning of January 14th, 2017, and she's beginning work as a barista at the Starbucks on Willamette Street in Eugene, Oregon. Not long later, a blonde woman with red lipstick, a black dress, black jacket, and a purse walks in and hurries toward the restroom. But it's locked. This Starbucks requires you to order something before you get the code to use it. So, the woman walks back to the counter and orders a coffee, provides the name Lacy, gets the code to the bathroom, and goes inside. Meanwhile, Joanna finishes the order and puts it on the counter. The coffee is made to sit there for minutes before Lacy emerges, grabs the coffee, and takes it to the condiment bar, puts sugar and milk in it, and then walks out. This is a January day, so it is snowing and very cold. Joanna notices Lacy holding up her phone to her ear. Minutes later, as she wipes down the condiment bar, she observes a clearly cold Lacy loitering outside as if she's waiting for someone to come pick her up. Joanna pokes her head out and tells her she can wait inside, but Lacy declines. The cold will be the least of her worries. That's because she had just called the cops on herself.
What is that? What's the emergency? We're about to tell someone. What's your name? Where's your eyes? Tell me what happened. I shot my boyfriend, and I think he's dead. Where did this happen? At Alton Baker Park. Have you talked to him? Have I talked to him? Right, since you left? No. He said you shot me, and he said... Wait, he shot you? No, he... Where is the gun? I have it. You have the gun with you now? Yes. Where is it? It's in my handbag.
3 officers with guns drawn descended on the south entrance of the Starbucks and were directed to the north doors where Lacy was standing on the sidewalk with her coffee. They confirmed that she was the one who made the call. When asked what this was about, she said it was her relationship with her boyfriend, adding that he was inside their 2002 tan Ford Explorer in Alton Baker Park, about an hour walk or 10-minute drive north. She consented to a search of her purse, in which they found a 9mm Luger handgun. The slide of the gun was cocked back, and the barrel had some white fibers on its tip. Lacy, who officers said was very calm, was taken into custody as forensics and evidence teams combed the places at which she'd been that morning. Inside the trash can in the Starbucks restroom were tissues with a pinkish-purple color, consistent with lipstick that was applied or removed. Before Lacy entered the Starbucks, she had been at the Burrito Boy up the street on Broadway, where she did the same thing. Ordered coffee and requested the code to the restroom. Inside that restroom trash was a paper towel with a red stain on it. At Alton Baker Park, police spotted the tan Ford Explorer in a parking spot with several other camper vehicles. The city allowed this part of the large developed park to be used as a camping area, so there were about a dozen vehicles in this lot at the time, according to a witness. At the rear of the Explorer was a large pile of cigarette butts with lipstick on them and a fired 9mm cartridge case and an unfired cartridge on the ground at the rear of the passenger side door. Both the SUV's rear doors were open and a male's legs were seen dangling out of the back seat on the driver's side. The back seats of the Explorer had been pulled down and converted into a bed, as this was effectively a camper vehicle. There were sleeping bags and a pillow in the back and personal items including a suitcase in the front. The front seat belts were looped through the door handles to create an additional security measure. Laying on his back and clearly dead was the boyfriend, who had been shot once in the back. There was no blood spatter inside the car. He had a shoe on his right foot, but not on his left, which had a sock on. His feet were dry, indicating he had not stepped out of the car. He had 3 layers on his upper body, a thin jacket which was underneath a brown Carhartt jacket which was underneath a vest filled with white feathers. He was also wearing track pants, jeans, and rain coveralls. Inside his vest were toiletries including deodorant, toothpaste, and a razor. Inside his pants pocket were identification cards. His name was Joshua Ty Turnage, and above his left eyebrow was a red mark, consistent with a kiss, from lipstick-covered lips. 33-year-old Lacy Lyons was brought into the police station to be questioned by lead detective Jennifer Curry. Lacy began by explaining that her relationship with Joshua had been tumultuous since they started dating about 7 months prior, and the night before was just a tragic conclusion of their problems, she would explain. After some vodka on the night of Friday, January 13th, Lacy and Joshua got into a heated argument after she admitted to seeing someone else. But she told him it was during the period when they were not seeing each other months ago. The relationship with Joshua, Lacy would repeat ad nauseum, was, quote, off and on. She was upset with him because she said he admitted to using meth on New Year's Day, which made him especially threatening. The argument lasted about 5 hours into the next morning, she said, and that was apparently just a prelude. She said she told Joshua that she was going for a walk to cool down. It was 2:30 a.m. when she walked to a bar called The Cooler on Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard, but it was closed. She then walked back to the park where she was asked by a neighbor if she had a cigarette. In exchange, Lacy was given marijuana and she stood around and smoked it outside of the neighbor's camper. She then said she got back in the Explorer and tried to sleep, but Joshua started the argument again, which lasted another 3 hours. Right before he was shot, Lacy said she pulled out her gun, pointed it at his back, and told him that she felt threatened and that he should stop shouting at her or take a walk. As he was putting on his shoes with his back toward her, she said he made a motion with his hand toward her. Lacy said she knew he carried a pocket knife with which he had previously threatened her. That's when she fired the fatal round. He grimaced and said he was paralyzed before he took one last strained breath and passed, she said. She said she told him she was sorry, cradled his head and told him she loved him before kissing him on the forehead and then stepping outside, never again to see who she called her best friend. Her phone's battery was dead, so she said she went to charge it. And that's what she did in the Starbucks restroom before she made the 911 call. That night was just a culmination of a bad relationship that Lacy said she had planned to leave to start her life anew.
He said, when I said, you want to kill yourself? And he's like, I felt like he was pushing me. He said, give me one reason why I should kill myself and I'll shoot myself.
The couple were brought to Alton Baker Park for Lacy's job. The woman, who grew up in Salem, Oregon, had been working for a company called Crowd Management Services, which handles security for events. This meant that she had to be on the move to these events most of her working time, which in turn meant she needed to be living on the road as the job took her between Washington and Oregon. This is all to say that it is the reason why they were living in the car. When they parked in Alton Baker Park, Lacy was scheduled to handle events at the nearby Autzen Stadium and Matthew Knight Arena. By the time of their argument, Lacy said she was already making arrangements to move on with her life. She was planning on returning to school, and was at one point offered a job as a bouncer at the bar called The Good Times. That said, she probably wished for a redo on that May 2016 day, when she approached 32-year-old Joshua at a cafe after an Alcoholics Anonymous meeting. She introduced herself and they got to talking. A Mississippi native, Joshua went to the University of Vermont and, according to a background check, attended the National Personal Training Institute in Burlington in 2005. He also wrote a book of poems. He had a child from a previous relationship. Joshua told her that he was at some point a private military contractor in the Middle East before he started taking up odd jobs on the west coast of the United States. It turned out that they both had at some point attended Lane Community College, according to her Facebook page and his obituary. She gave him her contact info and asked if he wanted to go to a meeting together sometime. He ended up calling her that very night and they went out to a dessert place called Sweet Life. From then on, it was everyday walks and strolls through AA meetings together. Inseparable afterward. They called these whirlwind romances because they developed very quickly. By June, they were a couple. By July, she was sleeping under the same roof as him in Washington, where he was working at a construction company called Peter Winberg Construction. At some point, she said they got engaged. She left for Eugene after the July 4th weekend, but he didn't come with her because of work. It wouldn't be long after, however, that he would move into the Explorer with her in Eugene. He complained to her that he had an altercation with colleagues at work and that he was laid off on July 18th. In the meantime, he took up a labor job at grocer market of choice in the city. Things were looking up for the couple, though their living arrangement in their first month together was precarious. They would be in and out of hotels as Lacy would be gone for work in Washington up to 2 days at a time. When they weren't in the Explorer, they were staying temporarily at the First Place Family Shelter. This wasn't the healthiest of living situations, but they had to make do as an uncomfortable winter was coming. Unfortunately, this wasn't exactly a fairy tale romance. The problem with whirlwind romances, after all, is there will always be something you don't know about the other.
He is just very controlling. He'd yell at me, get mad at me. I mean, he wouldn't give me gas money, you know, like he'd be at work and I'd be like trying to go around during the daytime and like taking a shower, getting ready for the day or getting ready for work or whatever. And he'd get so mad at me, like he wouldn't give me gas money to go do what I needed to do.
On the afternoon of August 13th, as they were sitting in their car, Joshua was upset. He claimed to have done overtime work for Peter Winberg Construction before he was laid off, but said he hadn't been paid the $300 or so that he was owed. Lacy could see he was getting agitated, so she handed her phone over because he said he wanted to make a call to his former employer. He dials the number, but is sent to voicemail, so he leaves this message.
Oh, yes, this is Josh Returning. I was unlawfully terminated on July 18th after coming in on a Saturday when no one else was even there, after staying late on a Friday when everyone else left, after 3 hours. None of that shit matters, but what matters is that I was unlawfully terminated after some illegal fucking nigger named Hiram comes up to me and starts threatening me calling me a green girl and a fucking white boy. You want me to represent fucking Peter Winberg Construction and you want a fucking nigger fucking criminal crap, like they fucking Hiram. I'm not taking that shit. I'm not gonna be used like some fucking tool and be thrown away to pay me a wage that was not enough. You're expecting to make $15 an hour when everyone else is paying 20 to 25, okay? There's no way I'm going to be subjected to being underpaid and being abused.
Lacy said she was stunned, surprised, and scared. She said it was the first time she'd heard him talk like that. Racial epithets, threats of bodily harm, all of it. And he didn't stop talking about it, she alleged. She said he would bring it up almost every day. He would leave 2 additional voicemails in October, targeting a Hispanic colleague named Chewy, threatening to break their faces, and saying he would sue the company for unpaid wages. She said his racism wasn't confined to people with which he had direct conflicts. She alleged he thought that there were ongoing race wars and the whites needed to back each other up against the non-whites. She alleged that on one night he randomly confronted a black man on the street and a Hispanic man because of what he perceived was the odd way he looked at him. He especially hated Arabs and Muslims, she said, claiming he told her he enjoyed crushing their skulls overseas. If he wasn't threatening her, he was trying to isolate her from her friends, family, and acquaintances on Facebook, she said, including men with which he had previously communicated or dated. She said he would accuse her of seeing people of other races whenever she was away from him, using racially derogatory language to refer to Hispanics, blacks, and Arabs. Because he couldn't trust her, she said he forced her to give up her phone and Facebook login so he could monitor her activity. On Lacy's Facebook page, there are posts defending white supremacists and the hatred of Muslims. Whether that's Lacy or Joshua using her account is up for debate. In one Facebook post and in testimony, she said she was able to get back her account from her hacker. That hacker was allegedly Joshua, who during this time was serving 10 days in jail for leaving voicemails at churches threatening them for helping resettle Syrian refugees during the war in that country. We know this to be a fact because the defense had it as one of its exhibits, which wasn't allowed into evidence because it was deemed to lack relevance. At the time of his death, she said Joshua, who didn't even have his own phone, couldn't hold down a job because he was abusing drugs. She said he had gotten them kicked out of various institutions, including a bank at which they parked after an altercation in which he tried taking control of the steering wheel because she went the wrong way, causing her to make an emergency stop. She said he was punching the dashboard in a rage and broke it. She claimed there was a tussle afterward where he pinned her down and took the keys. The commotion allegedly got them removed from the bank parking lot. Lacy said she was over the relationship, and his alleged use of meth on New Year's Day 2017 meant she was ready to move on. She said she had plans to sell the Explorer and split the money with him. Otherwise, she had a good job, she was embracing the thought of going back to school, and she said she relished the thought of being reunited with her 4 children.
It wasn't just us, there were neighbors and stuff. People were getting death threats and letters. People were getting threatened online. Okay. I mean, people were getting robbed and kids were getting kidnapped. Okay. And people were getting death threats and our neighbors were harassing us. Okay. Someone messed with my car. Alright. We got broken into. Someone kidnapped my daughter.
In the month before she met Joshua, on April 6, 2016, Lacy went into the Department of Human Services, or DHS for short, and asked for additional money to stay at a motel with her children in Eugene. By that point, she had twice requested that she be given what is called a domestic violence grant to help her move out of her problematic living situation. She was subsequently transported from West Salem to South Salem, and then from South Salem to Eugene. She had initially worked with a DHS worker in Marion County, which houses the city of Salem, to find shelter inside the city, but they were all full. She then spoke to someone at a mission in Eugene, so Marion County drove her out there. When they got there, they stayed at motels until a more suitable arrangement could be found for them. Lacy was required by Eugene DHS worker to go through counseling, psychological evaluation, and therapeutic services with her children, with a commitment to attend services at what was then called Women's Space and what is now called the Hope and Safety Alliance, which is basically a treatment facility for domestic violence survivors. About a week after requesting more money to extend their motel stay, on April 13th, she paid the agency another visit, this time with her 4 children in tow. She asked that they be placed in foster care. The reason? She said she couldn't protect them. She said they were being terrorized in the area. Neighbors were harassing them, people were being robbed, and at one point she said her daughter was kidnapped. There were attempts by the agency to track down her past boyfriend in Marion County in April and May 2016, but they could not locate him. Meanwhile, she was able to stay at the mission until July 2016. Between letting go of her children and Joshua's death, Lacy was able to visit her children just once in October. She said 3 of them were with their granduncle and 1 with their grandmother. That information comes from the official record. Otherwise, everything else that we know about Lacy from this story comes straight from her. And she doesn't paint the rosiest of pictures. Those 4 children all came from different fathers, she said. In one domestic violence incident 5 years prior to Joshua's death, she said her partner held her and her children hostage. He tried to kill her and even threw one of her kids out of the window, she said. She said she had been diagnosed in Salem with post-traumatic stress disorder, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, or ADHD for short, and anxiety. She was on Ritalin and Adderall, but she hadn't been on the medication since moving to Eugene. It also didn't appear like she was close with family. The last time she said she spoke with her mother was a year prior. Her experience with domestic violence in part informed her decision to walk into a Mazama sporting goods shop with Joshua on October 12, 2016, and purchased a 9mm handgun she would use against him in what she would tell investigators in this case was an act of self-defense. An act of self-defense she tried bolstering her case, because it wasn't the only time she had used it against him.
Last time, actually, this is the last time we got physical. Before this, I actually hit him. Okay, he was screaming and yelling in my face, and I warned him. I said, okay, you keep screaming and yelling in my face, it's kind of intimidating, he's a big guy. Yeah. And I hit him, and last time I actually hit him with the gun.
A couple of weeks before his death, during what Lacy described as his controlling phase, Joshua was scrolling through her Facebook profile one early morning when he stumbled upon a photo. It's what to us would appear like an innocent one of 2 children waving at the camera. But it wasn't innocent to Joshua, according to Lacy. One of the 2 kids in the photo is black. The 6'2" tall Joshua lost it on 5'5" Lacy and flew into a rage, she said. He berated her for having a child with a black man. This happened while Lacy was preparing her new handgun for work. She said he got extremely close to her and was spitting in her face with every vitriolic payload. She said he told her he wished he was O.J. Simpson, a man who made millions playing football and allegedly got away with killing his girlfriend. He allegedly told her the things he enjoyed doing to her, including sexually assaulting her. Perhaps calling her a fat ass wasn't enough. Because it wasn't just the threatening voicemails and messages to his coworkers, her friends and acquaintances, and his race wars, conspiracy theories, and hatred of minorities that Lacy feared. It was also what he allegedly thought of women, the gender that existed to serve men. She claimed that he had shared with her images not just of genocide in the race wars, but of femicide, or the murder of women. She alleged that he was part of a ring of men who sexually assaulted women in California. In other words, in that moment, Lacy, a woman who loved and had children by minorities, was the perfect target for a physical attack. While her pleading with him to stop didn't work, she said she took preemptive action by whacking him in the face with the gun. The result left a visible red imprint on Joshua's cheek, but she said it ended the confrontation. But for how long was the question. Lacy, in the meantime, said she went to women's space and worked with a counselor there. Her plan, she said, was to get a job at a hostel where she'd be able to work, live, and from there go to school. She had another reason to want to leave. She wasn't 100% Caucasian, she said. In her lineage, she has a bit of Black and Apache. It didn't help that the father of one of her children was registered in the Siletz tribe. She said she felt that Joshua was investigating her, which wouldn't be too difficult presumably because he had access to her Facebook account, where he could contact her family and ask them. That would be the only conceivable way because there's no official record of Lacy having that diverse lineage, the court heard. But despite all the trouble in their relationship, Lacy still found her way back to Joshua.
How many times did you shoot him? Once. Just once. Okay. Where did you shoot him at? I know you said he's mentioned being paralyzed, so he was obviously talking, it sounds like. Where did you hit him at?
In the back.
In the back. Okay.
I don't know exactly where, just because it was like he was like there, getting ready to go, and I was like, just go.
Just go.
And then he's like yelling, and then something about the way he turned like that, that's when I got up, so I don't know if it was like directly in the back, or something about when he twisted, I know it was in the back area, and then after he collapsed there, I was shocked.
One of the central questions that stumped investigators was why Lacy kept going back to Joshua if she had such a deep-seated fear of him. From the first threatening voicemail in August through to the threats he allegedly leveled against her on a daily basis, the fear seemed palpable from her testimony. Joshua was in jail at some point. She freely left the Explorer before she returned that night and killed him. She repeated over and over that they were in an off and on relationship. She knew how to get support at the shelter she previously visited. So why didn't she seek out that assistance during those times where she could have escaped? Lacy's answer to those inquiries was that Joshua was a completely different person when he was sober, sweet, kind, and loving to her. And he just had a way of roping her back, according to her. She said after the pistol whipping incident, he apologized.
Lacy, there's been a lot of tension between us, so basically I just wanted to tell you the truth. The truth is that I love you more than anything. The truth is that you're the only person that's ever truly cared about me in my life. But the thing is I love you, and like, despite what happens, I shouldn't be having breakdowns like this, but we have to get out of this car, we're gonna die. Like, I love you more than anything, and I don't want to see you, you know, hurt or endangered in any way. That's why I don't try to like isolate you from your friends, you know. I want you to have friends. You don't understand how much I love you. You mean everything to me. And I know that it's temporary, and that hurts me a lot. Like, that hurts me so much, but at the same time, it is what it is, because I'm lucky to have loved you. Knowing that I'm going to lose you meant to never have loved you at all. And that's the thing that I can't deal with, you know, is you know, like, we've been through so much together, and like, I know it has to come to an end, but it's just like, I love you, and I'm sorry for breaking down. I'm sorry. I would give you anything, you know. I really, really and truly would. Yeah, so thank you so much. Sorry about that. I don't know what to say. If I could tell you how much I loved you and what you meant to me, I would, but there's really no way to explain it.
In another message on November 22nd, 2016, Joshua sent Lacy another message that read, "Lacy, I'm out of jail. I'll be living at the Eugene mission at the Eugene service station. Please email me to let me know if we can meet up so I can get my stuff. I will always love you, and I hope you don't hate me for being arrested. I will be at a Goodwill employment every day so you can find me there. I will leave a message for you at the Lindholm Family Center. Please let me know that you're okay, because I love you." It appeared Lacy was the victim of a sweet-talking racist who lured her back whenever things got rough in their relationship. After all, she had the reasons and the opportunities to leave him. She had the job, the car, the cell phone, and the women's shelter connections to flee. So, in theory, it would make sense that Joshua, the guy with no job, no money, no phone, or future prospects, was desperate enough to hurt her if she wasn't going to stick around. A classic case of self-defense, right? Except Lacy had a problem. A problem-named witness testimony. Kaylin Salisbury was a neighboring camper at Alton Baker Park on the night the gunshot rang out. She said the arguing between the couple was a daily occurrence, disputes over Lacy's money and drug use, and about Lacy being gone for a long time. In the very early hours of January 14th, Kaylin said she couldn't sleep. She just heard a loud and emotional Joshua telling Lacy he'd done so much for her and this is how she was repaying him. Moments later, Kaylin testified that she heard Lacy say the following.
Give me one good reason why I shouldn't kill you.
Then the gunshot. The night before, Kathleen Bond, a volunteer at the First Christian Church in Egan, saw Joshua at around 9:30 p.m. Kathleen did homeless outreach at Alton Baker Park and had met Joshua 5 or 6 times previously, the first meeting being in December 2016. He had been sporting that red mark on his cheek from the pistol whipping incident. She said he looked concerned, worried, and scared. He was worried that Lacy was going to come down to Egan and that he was relieved to be away from her, according to Kathleen. Even days before, Kathleen said he was frantic, scared, and unsure of what to do about his Lacy problem. Kathleen said he told her that Lacy threatened to shoot him and claim self-defense if he tried leaving her. Kathleen said she was very concerned about his safety. What a contrast. When confronted by Kaylin's testimony, Lacy told the detective she didn't remember asking Joshua to give her one good reason why she shouldn't kill him. But as lead detective Jennifer Curry would come to learn, Lacy was a talker.
I warned him.
Okay. So here's the thing, Lacy. Just tell me what you said, because otherwise I can only go by what they said, and I'll tell you what they said. They said, give me one reason not to kill you. So I know you remember what you said, so it's best if you just tell me what you said, so that I'm not just going by what this person said. So just tell me what you remember saying. Because you're the one that called us, so I have no reason right now to think that you would lie to me. So just go ahead and tell me what you said.
I said I really didn't want to.
You really didn't want to what?
I should have.
So, okay, so tell me, just say it, act like I'm Josh, and say what you said to him.
I was trying to intimidate him. I wanted to leave him alone.
You were trying to intimidate him, so you leave him alone.
Just
Okay.
like the last time when I hit him.
Okay.
I mean, even that, I wasn't like trying to. That last time I snapped you, I wasn't planning on it or trying to.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Okay.
I was kind of trying to, let him know that I was standing up for myself and I was going to protect myself, and I just wanted him to stop. That's why I was telling him over and over, be quiet, or go somewhere else. You know what I mean? I didn't want to do it.
I'm not saying that you did. All I'm saying is,
I wasn't trying to. I didn't want to. I might have said something messed up. I mean, he said messed up stuff too. And I don't think I said that.
okay, so you might have said it, you don't think you said it, so here's what I'm
Not
saying.
like that. No, just give him a reason why I shouldn't.
Not to kill you. Okay, so then just look at me, Lacy, and you can say it in an angry, pissed off, cussing, yelling manner. Just tell me, pretend I'm Josh. I know people say things they don't mean all the time. That's why I'm saying I don't want to just go by what the person who heard it said. I want to go by what you actually tell me, because I know you remember what you said. So look at me, yell at me, whatever, pretend I'm Josh, and just tell me what you said. You're the one that called us, so I don't have any reason to think that you would try to lie to me about it. So if you have to yell at me, you just yell at me, just tell me. Because I know you remember what you said. And if you're saying it's something different, then just tell me what it was.
I'm thinking it.
Okay, just yell it. Or say it however you said it. If you didn't yell it, don't yell it.
I think it was more like, give him a reason why I shouldn't. You know what I mean? He's like, what are you going to shoot me? Do it, do it. I said, really? Do you really want me to? You know what I mean? Like, I felt like for everybody who was egging me on, provoking me, I was like, really? You're being ridiculous. I was like, all I want you to do is stop yelling at me and go take a walk. You know what I mean? Or knock it off. Okay? And I was like, you really want me to? And he's like, what are you going to shoot me? Just do it. Just do it. And I was like, you really want me to shoot you? He's like, I know you want to shoot me. And I was like, I really don't. You know what I mean? I said, would you shoot me? And he said no.
So did you say, give me one reason not to kill you, or was it something else?
Well, not like, oh, give me a reason not to kill you, I'm going to shoot you right now. It wasn't like that. It was more like, really?
Okay.
Do you really want me to shoot you? And he's like, do it. And I was like, really? Do you really want me to shoot you? You know what I mean? Like, he had a death wish. He was suicidal when I first met him. You know what I mean? And I asked him, I said, do you want to die? I was asking him. You know what I mean? I was genuinely wondering. I was like, was he trying to push me? I was like, you want me to shoot you? And if they really overheard right, they would have heard him say that. Yeah, go ahead and shoot me. I was like, do you want to die? I said, remember that? He's like, do it, shoot me. And I was like, do you really want me to? I know he's been suicidal. I wondered if he really did want me to, like he was trying to push me.
A forensic examination on her phone found no evidence of femicide or genocide, which she claimed Joshua put on her phone. An examination of the Explorer yielded no sign of a busted dashboard, countering Lacy's claim that Joshua broke it. A DHS witness said they could not find any Native American heritage in her blood. A DHS worker found out that Women's Space had no idea who Lacy Lyons was, rejecting her claim she attended counseling. The reason why she only visited her children once in October, despite having 3 other scheduled visits afterward, was because she was a no-show. And her claim that she had never threatened anyone before was countered by a Facebook post she made 3 days after she purchased the 9mm handgun, in which she effectively threatened to shoot an ex-boyfriend because he allegedly tried to kill her family and take her hostage. "I'm coming back to town with my 9, she concluded in one post. In another message, she says, "And my baby daddies better stay off my ass, or I might erase their faces if they want to stalk or harass me more." Further testimony from the lead detective in the case revealed that all the 911 calls Lacy made while living in Salem had nothing to do with domestic violence. They were just minor neighbor disputes and one case in which she couldn't find her daughter, who ended up being where she needed to be. A toxicology report found that while Joshua did have weed in his system, there was no other controlled substances such as the meth she had claimed he was using, and he didn't have alcohol in his system, which Lacy said were the times when he got the most upset. Lacy argued in court that she had good reason to be fearful of Joshua, seeing as he had threatened her and non-whites. In fact, her legal team argued that the pistol whipping incident served as a precedent justification for use of force because he allegedly stopped threatening her when she hit him. The almost daily threats, his racial animus, and the fear that he found out about her lineage meant she was under a form of emotional disturbance that any movement from Joshua would require her to spring into action, the defense argued. So when she allegedly saw him turn toward her, with the belief he had a pocket knife, she shot him. The state argued her story didn't add up. There was no evidence that he turned around, and in fact the prosecution argued that it was more likely that he was leaning forward as he was preparing to get out of the car. Furthermore, if she had shot him in self-defense, why didn't she ask the neighboring campers for help? Why didn't she ask the burrito boy or Starbucks to call 911? Her answers were that she didn't want to cause a scene and that she couldn't think straight. The state also pointed to a moment in her interrogation when she said she didn't think Joshua was going to kill her there. The court also heard that there's no evidence that he actually physically assaulted her previously. In fact, the messages he left her after being released from jail showed he did not harbor animosity toward her, the state pressed. In addition, if Joshua had threatened her family and friends, why didn't the defense bring them to testify in court? Lacy also raised new information on the stand that she had not provided to the detective, that Joshua allegedly raped her. The state was incredulous. In the 8-hour-long interview with the detective, she didn't think to raise that crucial fact. She said she wasn't thinking straight at the time and was only coming forward at trial because she heard similar stories from other women during counseling. More curiously, at least for the state, was that she said she wasn't thinking of a defense at the time of her interview with the detective. It appeared to the state that Lacy was trying to fit a square peg in a round hole to suit her self-defense claim as she attempted to bridge the threatening voicemails he left with his former employer to her emotional state when she shot him. But the jury wasn't having it. Crucial witness testimony that unraveled her lies sealed her fate. She was convicted of murder and assault in the pistol whipping incident. She was sentenced to life in prison with a minimum of roughly 31 years. Lacy is a woman who is immature, egocentric, and selfish, read a psychological report from 2010, which was conducted while she was pregnant. She has a high need for affection and attention and sympathy. Relationships with others are likely to be shallow and superficial. She may harbor resentment and hostility toward people she perceives as not offering enough attention or support. She appears to be rigid and over-controlled. Passive-aggressive responses are likely noted with the occasional angry outburst. She does not appear to be motivated for treatment, and she reports being overwhelmed, confused, and fearful. She may appear to be very disorganized and agitated at times, and test results show she has characteristics found among individuals who abuse alcohol. or drugs. At some point in the 15 months since the incident, and while still incarcerated, Lacy got engaged again. She discussed this in a jailhouse call.
Is my doctor okay? What? A beautiful engagement ring. No! Yeah. From who? One of my sugar daddies. Well, I was gonna say, where's sugar daddy? Where's sugar daddy?
Curiously, she jokes about how she will marry her oldest admirer because he won't live very long, and she can then move on to the next. The state used the call to bolster its theory that she intended to get rid of Joshua to move on to the next one, and that she lacked remorse and wasn't actually suffering from any trauma. In the second jailhouse call with her mother, she jokes about being hired by Assassins R Us, and talks about getting fan mail and notoriety from her case. Again, the state used this to lift its case that she lacked remorse and was suffering from any sort of trauma from the incident, much less love the guy she once called her best friend. A couple of interesting observations from Lacy's interview with the detective and her testimony in court. She began a lot of answers with the word "well" and a pause, as if she was buying herself time to think of a response that lined up with her defense. And one other. In the initial interview, she said she was 5 feet 5 inches tall, but in court, she said she was 5 feet 4 inches tall, perhaps to appear smaller and more vulnerable.
In my work, I've been witness to various people's lives full of tragedy, inexplicable brutality, incredible sorrow. Rarely have I met someone who appears as cold-hearted and calculating as you. All that I've learned about you, including learning information about you from evidence that was never put in front of the jury, particularly the person you reveal yourself to be in conversation with others while you've been incarcerated, demonstrate a bravado and callousness that takes my breath away. On the whole, you have demonstrated, as Ms. Green has pointed out, a significant lack of insight into your behaviors, and in my view, an authentic lack of remorse for the consequences of your actions. You ended the life of a young man who had difficulty in his life. You guys were both in a hard spot. You may have had a lot of animosity that he shouldn't have had, a lot of demons that he was struggling with. But what you took from him was the opportunity to right himself. And what I have seen in my experiences is that there are a lot of people out there who make terrible decisions, who struggle and suffer, and somehow they redeem themselves. You took that chance away from him. You deprived his daughter of a father. You deprived your own children of a mother out in the world. And over all of it, I looked and searched for some authentic spark of remorse, and I found none. You were on the stand saying you were sad and sorry, but that was totally contrary to other things that I saw when you weren't paying attention to what other people were watching or listening. The jury gave very careful consideration of your explanations, your excuses, and your self-serving representations of the situation you said you were in. They rejected those. There are people in this world who have suffered as greatly as you. Your circumstances were unfortunate in many respects. Some of those circumstances may have been thrust on you, and some have been cultivated by you in your behaviors and your decisions. Your decision to assault and then weeks later murder Mr. Turnage was not something that had to happen. Countless people in worse situations than you do not assault people, and they don't murder them.
Thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to listen to me narrate this story, which was based on the primary sources. Special mention goes to the local reporters bringing light to these cases, to the court clerks for assistance on case files, and to you guys for engaging in the subject matter. I hope you all are well, you do something nice for someone or something, and I'll see you next time.